Welcome back to Hardball. Jim Kramer is the host of CNBC's Mad Money. Steve Pearlstein is with the Washington Post. He's a fabulous business journalist. Let me start with Jim Kramer here. What are you worried about right now? You know more than I do. Most people watching don't know what you know, Jim. What are you worried about in terms of Congress's ability to go along with something but make it better than what Paulson is recommending here?
I'm worried about the failure of the largest savings and loan in the country, and I'm worried about bank lines, and I'm worried about the domino effect. I believe many big banks will fail. The FDIC will be overwhelmed if we don't get this plan.
And you believe we're going to get to a cash crisis, in other words?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in
other words, you won't be able to get any money out of your ATM.
I believe that we will have a Great Depression scenario. I can't even, I mean, not that I'm going to give you the Paulson speech that was, that is like the most frightening thing in the world, but I am desperately fearful that this package fails.
Give me a date. When's it got to get done?
It's got to get done it's got to get done in the next 10 days. There's a bank out there that I don't think can make it.
And we're watching the Dow. It was all I can watch here from this show. I'm watching the Dow go down a couple hundred again, couple hundred again. If that erosion continues at that rate, a couple hundred points a day, is that what the death rattle sounds like?
All that is people saying, listen, they're going to nickel and dime the plan. It's not going to make it. And people know what a horse race is going on between several institutions that are really fighting for their lives, that need this plan very badly, and the stuff on Capitol Hill. It's taking too long.
Stephen, you were unbelievable on Charlie Rose last night. I fell in love with your analysis because you have clarity working for you. How do you just take this time here, a minute or a couple minutes, and explain this thing to people who are just looking at it in awe, and all they have is a 401k or a pension or whatever they got, and they're watching. What the heck happened here?
Well,
is it too big a question?
It is too big a question. What's happening now is that the financial system is having to realize the losses that resulted from this huge credit bubble that burst. And the system is freezing up. You can look at the stock market, but as Jim would tell you, it's even more important to look at the bond market and the credit markets, where all the money is flowing into short-term treasuries. Banks won't lend to other banks. Banks won't lend to McDonald's so that their franchisees can fix up. Banks won't. Nobody will lend to the auto companies so people can buy cars. You got auto companies. You got banks. You got a lot of people that are going to get starved for credit. And, you won't like what happens if this plan goes down and the financial system melts down. It's just the reality. We hate to have to do this. We hate to have to put our money at risk here. By the way, you keep saying that it's $700 billion that we're going to lose. We're not going to lose $700 billion, okay? We're going to borrow $700 billion. We're going to buy $700 billion worth of stuff. The stuff is not, Chris, worthless, okay?
Right. What's its value?
It is just not worthless.
Right.
If we knew the value, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this problem. The fact is, no one knows the value.
Stephen, as I'm going by the anecdotal storytelling I keep getting, that these mortgages were foreclosed on, that people are never going to come through with any money, that they walked away from the house.
No, you know what? That's in a few cases you're talking about trillions of dollars worth of these packages. 80% of the mortgages in these packages are fine. 10% of them can be fine with little adjustments, okay? So instead of people getting 100 cents on the dollar, they're going to get 80 cents or 60 cents or 70 cents. So please don't, they're not worth zero, okay? And we're going to buy them
why
at
is the federal
rate.
government the only market for them then?
Because no one will touch them anymore. The markets are irrational, Chris. They're irrational on the way up.
But why aren't they discounted? If something goes down in value, you buy it at a cheaper price. Why isn't the market clearing here? That's all I'm asking.
Because the market is not clearing, because markets don't clear when they're irrational. If you think the price is going to go down further, no one bids. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. And you need to bring a buyer in, and a buyer who's saying, I'm willing to buy. Now, who's willing to sell? And then you have an auction to see who's willing to sell to me at the lowest price. And then you start to get some action.
So give me an anecdotal example of why a mortgage that isn't valued, nobody will buy it on the open market right now, is worth something down the road if the government freezes this whole process and buys that paper right now. Okay. How does it become better?
You're talking as if it's a single mortgage. In a single mortgage, I would know what to do with it. If it's a package of 1,000 mortgages, it's a lot more complicated. Okay. And that's where the mortgages are, and that's why this is more complicated than a single mortgage. A single mortgage, I know what to do with. I can see the house. Right. I can see the guy who's got it and what his finance is, and I can make a decision. 1,000, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Let
me go back to Jim. I've been corrected here. It's not a $700 billion loss. It's a $700 billion outlay here by the federal government, which will have an unrealizable and unmeasurable value at some point to the Treasury, right?
Right.
Whoever's going to own all that paper has to will sell it or do something with it. We'll discount it somewhere, and we'll have something left.
Steve is so right here. It's so great to hear someone who was not on Wall Street complaining about this plan because, boy, he's got clarity to this. We have many vintages of mortgages. We have mortgages from 2005 in certain zip codes in California, and they may be worth 30 cents on the dollar. We've got some 2006 mortgages from Florida, maybe worth 50 cents. With the right manager, we make the right bids. What will happen is the private sector will come in and say, you know what, I know that I can lose these mortgages, this big batch from Wachovia, 50 cents to the dollar from the Fed. I am so confident that this plan is going to make us money and cause a housing bottom by the middle of next year that I want in. I hope I can get in on this plan. I hope the taxpayer can get in. I hope I can participate in a bad bank. You know, they're going to split banks into good and bad banks. I hope that I will be able to tell people in Mad Money, you can be part of this plan too, because once we get price discovery, these mortgages are going up in value, not down.
Okay, let me get back to Stephen, who I've invited on to correct me, and you've done so with vigor. Let me ask you this, $700 billion outlay, what do you think is a reasonable estimate of what the value of that will be once the government institutions purchase that paper? What will we be left with, roughly?
Somewhere plus or minus $200 billion. We could make $200 billion, we could lose it. Look, is it possible we could lose it all? Yeah, if we have the Great Depression again for 15 years, you could lose it all. But realistically, if we manage this thing well, plus or minus $200 billion either way.
Either way on the $700 billion.
Yeah,
small price to play. Small price,
so
and I agree with you.
It's possible that a 50-50 bet that we could break even?
I think so. Not only that, but if we can stem foreclosures, whole areas that we would never want to live in will suddenly become buys. I mean, you'll go to the Inland Empire in California. If we can stem foreclosures and those properties down 40, 50%, like from when I was there last year looking to buy, put me up. I'll buy 5 homes.
So you're talking about people buying homes, and the housing market would come alive again if this thing works. Is that what you're both saying?
Oh, my God.
The housing market comes alive, people start to sell, people start to buy, it works again. Everything works again. Is that what the goal is?
Not
Steve?
For the whole country.
Look,
Steve.
The alternative is terrible, Chris. The alternative is lots of people losing their jobs, lots of people losing their 401ks because everything comes down. I mean, we're not doing this for Wall Street. The bailout for Wall Street is really the worst kind of way to think about this. Okay. They are the instruments by which we are saving ourselves, and we can't get fixated on the fact that it's unfair. Okay? Life is unfair. This whole thing is unfair. The question is not whether it's unfair, but whether it's going to be more unfair if so many other innocent people suffer because we don't make this investment and take this risk. And it is a risk. Look, don't kid yourself. There is some risk involved here. Do we know it's going to work? Absolutely, we do not know it's going to work. But this is the best idea that a lot of smart people have been able to come up with.
Okay. I thank you and I believe you. Thank you, Jim Kramer, because I think you're disinterested, smart people. Thank you, Jim Kramer. And I mean disinterested in the best sense of that word, in the George Will sense. You're not into this for anything but the truth. Thank you, gentlemen. Mad Money of Jim Kramer and, of course, Steven Pearlstein of the Washington Post business section.